This episode is sponsored by the online Shockwave course, which is powered by the PhysiQuip Academy. Now at PhysiQuip, we are really passionate about educating our clients into how to use the technology, and that is why we've devised the online Shockwave course. So if you're looking at implementing this technology into your clinic, you're unsure of how to do so, the course is going to provide you with bite-sized educational pieces on how to implement it, how to get your team upskilled, what to use it for, different indications. So check that out, and we really thank the PhysiQuip Academy and the online Shockwave course for sponsoring the podcast. In this week's session, I sat down with Dr. Pritish Narayan, who is the Medical Director at Nottingham Forest Football Club. He gave us a tour of the new training facility, which is really impressive. He also talked about club culture and what it's like working in elite sports. So I hope you enjoy the episode and let me know what you think. Pritish, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Andy, in person.
It is. Yeah, great to meet you on this as well. And we've spoken for a number of months now on things. And thank you for giving us the tour of the facility that you've got here. So talk to me about what's been happening with the facility.
I mean, huge upgrades. We have moved in, obviously, to this new part of the building. It only got completed in pre-season, so we literally have just moved in. Monday was the last day of all the building work, and we were here maybe 2 hours after it all finished. So it's been chaotic, but as you could see with the tour, this is a fresh site for us, and it's awesome because actually a lot of growth and finance has been provided for us by the club to be in a place where we can give the players the best. So it's definitely a huge upgrade on what we had, and we're very grateful for the opportunity to be in this place and to deliver what we're delivering for players now.
Yeah, no, it's a really great setup that you've got here. Now, how long does something like this come to fruition?
Oh gosh, I mean, our operations team have done amazingly with this. We thought this would take months, but we initially got into conversations in the off season. I remember we were in a joint WhatsApp group, throwing ideas around, and before you know it, we had a plan within a week of what the building would kind of look like. And the last week of the off season, we were told that all the assurances and approvals are in place. So that was kind of end of June. And then when we turned up for pre-season, it was already, I'd probably say maybe 2 weeks for building work and 2.5 weeks, and that's it. So it has come about extremely quickly. I was definitely caught up. I had no hope, to be totally honest with you, that this place would be ready, but they've done a sterling job. It's amazing.
That's incredible to get it turned around. Like, I guess what plays into it is like staying in the Premier League or not. So that is, I'm an Everton fan, so we were quite precarious down there. But like, how big a role does that play in terms of staying up or not?
To be totally honest with you, from a staying up point of view, obviously it's a finance and budget related issue. So it definitely has its part to play. How much of a part to play in it in terms of the vision of the club, I don't know. I'd be hazarding a guess on that. But knowing the intricacies around it, for sure, there would have been a part to play. But I don't go that far up the chain to know how big a part that was. But like you said, fortunate to have stayed up. Grit from the whole team and management, and yeah, here we are on a third season in the Premier League.
No, it's good. So in terms of like your remit then, how far does your remit go in your responsibilities?
I mean, part of senior management, part of the sort of senior management group at the club here. So in close links with our chief football officer, who's Ross Wilson. We also have myself, who's head of medical, John Alty, who's head of physio, Adam Burrows, who's head of strength and conditioning. We recently had Chris Marshall, who was a previous psychologist, as part of this leadership group, essentially. And it kind of looks at optimizing player performance and health for the club. So it's kind of we do keep a very close knit group on that to ensure that what we want to deliver is appropriate for what we're trying to achieve in the Premier League. Because at the end of the day, we need to ensure that the manager has play availability and players performing well. So, which was probably what brought about the group in the first place.
And in terms of like for you and your stress levels when you're going through the season, like how involved or disengaged you try and be in the performance?
Um, it's changed over the years. I used to be quite heavily invested in it as a baby in the field, if you want to call it that, in my Coventry City days. I remember once the assistant manager said, "Can you please sit down and stop celebrating so much?" So it's definitely a far cry from that. We obviously try to keep the emotions under check and under control because at the end of the day, you know, our let's say our job is to ensure that the players are fit and healthy, and for them to translate their best on the pitch. But you know, invariably, you know them so well day in and day out. You're working with the same group, the same management staff, so emotionally there is an investment there. And yes, there were at times last season where it did get very stressful. But I think it's something to be positive about. I think stress brings you wanting to achieve better, you wanting to ensure that the players are in a better position to perform better, and give the technical team and support staff the most amount of players to pick their squad from, and particularly in a time like that when you know results are on the line. So from that point of view, I'll probably say the last couple of months of last season was very stressful, but the players and management got us there, so we can only be grateful.
Yeah, and like you always seem the most nice, placid person. I interact with a lot of people. I'm
Yeah.
not going to say the other people, but it's that in terms of you, you always seem really relaxed. So you're saying that's not the case, but like, how do you keep your mental well-being?
I think the analogy I have is the swan on the river. The swan looks calm and collective, but the feet are thrashing away under the water. And I think that's probably how to describe myself. I come across as cool and collected, but yeah, there are stressful moments. I think the stuff that kind of help is I enjoy my fitness and sport, so I kind of use that as an outlet to release some of the stress, and to develop routines so that the day feels okay, even though it can get stressful. I've got great support at home. My wife understands from my NHS days and working as an orthopedic trainee and registrar there to the sports days here, how sometimes it can all get a bit much. So she definitely gives me space when I need it and lots of encouragement and support from home. So yeah, the combination of everything. You know, my family understand the role of the job as well. It's one of those unwritten rules where when you're in season, you're in season. You can't take leave, you can't go on holidays, etc. So I've got a great support team around me that just know that. So it's definitely made life a lot easier. So I don't have to have very many difficult conversations around that, and in turn, you feel alright actually.
And so when do you get a time to?
It's usually the similar sort of time like the players in the off season, depending on what you know the manager's requirements are in terms of when to come back for pre-season, etc., etc. Some clubs it's 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. I was lucky enough to go away for a month this year, so I'm traveled a little bit with the wife, so that was handy just to recharge. It felt like a long year. And I think a little bit of that is obviously coming after season started in August last year, uh, trying to quickly settle in, understand the dynamics of the medical team, the wider performance team, what the expectation levels were from the chief football officer, from the manager, etc., etc. So trying to get up to speed with that, and then you had to hit the ground running, and then the season quickly just felt like it vanished really. So we got to the end of May, and it was almost like, wow, where did that just disappear to? So it was definitely good to go away and just recharge the tank a little bit, get a bit of sunlight, get a bit of tan, and then come back.
And you presume you still get contacts throughout that period though as well.
Oh, absolutely. I think you know it's difficult, as you'll know, within the industry, as you know, in a head of medical position to go away and be left alone and to your devices and with your family and not a single person disturb you is definitely something that doesn't happen. There was always emails to go through the project, which was developing this facility. Had to keep in sort of close tabs with players that have issues. Whilst I was abroad, we need to make sure there was a doc here and physio cover weekly. to ensure that players who were injured before the season finished had the appropriate protocols and rehab implemented. Players who had illnesses or new problems occurred during the off season had someone to support them as well. So always had to be at the end of the phone. A little bit tricky with the time difference. The last bit of the off season holiday for me was in Australia, so the time difference was a little bit interesting in terms of keeping in contact with everyone. But I think it's when you work in the field long enough, you have to keep your phone on loud, and you just have to get on with it with a smile on your face, which I do. So pretty
Yeah.
good.
No, it's good. If you've got support at home, that always helps with it as well. And then you were talking about how positive the culture is here, and it's a good dynamic environment.
Yeah.
Like, how do you maintain that with the team that you've got in the medical staff and interacting with the wider team?
I think with the medical team, it's easy because when you start in that role, you want to have similar philosophies. You want to have similar ways of working, similar values. Now, I appreciate from where I'm sat, everyone might not be singing on the same hymn sheet, but the idea in that sense is to try to get people to sing off the same hymn sheet, and that is through regular communication, regular meetings, understanding the people you work with. I take a particular interest in understanding people rather than teams. So we ran halfway through the season. I ran a little feedback form from a professional development point of view with all the members of staff, where they gave feedback in terms of their mental health, their value to the team, how do they feel about the team dynamics, where do they feel they could grow professionally, what we could do to facilitate that. So it almost felt like this journey is a wholesome unit rather than an individual trying to lead a unit, if that makes sense. So I got a good idea in the new year of what my team was like, what they wanted, what the dynamics were. And at the moment, I'm really happy to be supported by John Alty, who's our head physio, and we work, extremely well together. We formed a tight knit bond there, and we get each other. We're very different as people, but there's a huge amount of respect, and there's always the moment of laughter and fun as well. We get that element of the banter side of things as well. So I've been lucky enough to be supported by him, and like I said, it's a team that's young, progressive. Like I said, the dynamics of the team at the moment within the medical infrastructures, we're all in our early to mid to late 30s. So it's a relatively young medical department, and you can imagine within a Premier League how intense that could be when you've got lots at stake. So it's a progressive team, and it's a very tight knit team, and I'm privileged and honoured to be leading them.
No, it's great. I mean, because it's definitely important to have the right culture in whatever organisation, but particularly in really intense thing like it is in professional sports. And I think like one of the things that we've looked at with well the clubs that have been in previously is that sometimes culture isn't always great in that area. So it's really good that you've got that. And so out of that exercise that you did, what were the sort of things that you implemented as a result of it?
I think a big thing was feeling valued. Um, a lot of people felt that they had started recently, so this department is quite new as in terms of the actual personnel, and they felt that they didn't have their own niche. They didn't have their own value towards the team. And it was a good exercise to find out their own little niches, what sort of subspecialist skills they had acquired as a physio, as a therapist, and what they could apply to the team. And then it was giving them almost designated roles. Like we have a few lads who are really good at neuromodulation and acupuncture and needling, dry needling. So they became the specialists in terms of running CPDs for the rest of the department. There were a few who were very good at electrotherapy. They ran a CPD to help out with how to best get the use out of electrotherapy modalities. There are a few guys that are really good at the sort of spinal chiropractic stuff, which in turn again ran CPDs to help us out with how it's beneficial in this setting. So everyone kind of found their own little piece of the puzzle that they could fit into. And it was revealing because you could almost give them that independence in that area to say, actually, go out and express yourself with that. I understand it. I understand where you're coming from. It's about you expressing yourself in that area. And each of them kind of found their little niche and little role. And those who felt like they were all rounders and rather than subspecialists in areas show that desire to go on courses, workshops, CPD events, to go in further and hone in their own little niche, which in turn showed them that we value them as individuals and we want them to grow as well. So, very useful exercise.
No, I think yes, really good. Yeah, that's. I think just continuing to, I think, show value for people, get them to actually work on something that they're really driven to, because it's otherwise it's you can turn up. It's a long day otherwise.
I mean, yeah, like you said, it's a long slog. Working in football, is not a Monday 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job. So you have to be flexible and adaptable. And I think if we can play our part to make sure that they come in smiling and motivated, that's hugely important to ensure the team runs smoothly and effectively across the season.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And we first chatted about ultrasounds, and that's an area which we're really focusing on at the moment in the MSK setting. So it's growing massively in the private sector. It's always been in the NHS and so on, and even in sports. So what role does imaging play for you, in particular like diagnostic ultrasound?
Hugely. I mean, throughout the last couple of years, went and got a degree in ultrasound. So for me, I use it as a useful adjunct to my practice. It's not the be all and end all. I use it particularly when there is a ambiguity of diagnosis, and we need to have a look at players who have little problems to see if we need to step up management or step up the imaging modality, like getting an MRI scan. Um, Obviously, it is very user dependent, so you need to have that sort of confidence and skill. But I was lucky enough to be mentored by Dr. Butt and Dr. Al Habawi at Leicester General Hospital. So, a lot of MSK related cases there. So, it kind of just builds your acumen so you feel more comfortable using it. So, with the lads, I use it for a lot of interventional stuff as well. They need an interventional guided injection or an aspiration. It has come in very handy over the last sort of 12 months since you kindly provided us with the machine. And from a diagnostic point of view, it's not the gold standard, but it definitely aids in kind of guiding where you go next, and is a useful sort of support tool. Particularly, I use it most frequently with the knees to see how bad the effusion is, whether we need to drain it. It obviously gives us a little picture with tendons. If there's any tendinopathy working in the patellar tendon, quad tendon, ankle for the Achilles tendon. I look at it to see what the integrity of the ATFL is, what the AITFL is, whether there's a joint effusion there. Again, integrity of the tendons of the dorsum of the foot as well. I don't do a lot of upper limb stuff. There are a few goalkeepers that have come in that we have had little upper limb issues. So looking at the shoulder, again looking at the joint, the musculature and tendons around there. A lot of stuff we use with the hip. We had a few players that had hip-related trouble last year, so it's good to see whether they had an effusion in the hip. Guided injections into the hip with Ostenol, which was very useful. So it's come in hugely handy. I don't tend to use it for a lot of the simple soft tissue stuff, like calf-related injuries or hamstring-related injuries. Those tend to get escalated quite quickly to the MRI. But it's good to see what the progress of those injuries are afterwards. It's quite nice to see that the tendon has healed nicely. It's quite nice to see whether the fusion has resolved, whether the edema around the tendon has settled. With your calf test, seeing if the blood has resolved. If the muscle fibers are returned to normal, if the aponeurosis is starting to look like it's meant to look like. So ultrasound is something I definitely use. And being from an orthopedic background, we were taught landmark technique for all of our injections and aspirations. I don't do a single landmark technique ever anymore. It's always ultrasound guided because you know exactly where you are, what tissue plane you're in, what you're putting in, what you're taking out. So this is a machine that travels on the road with me. I take it for all away games as well, in case we need to assess players then and there, or provide guided injections pre or post matches. So the portability is amazing and something I love about this machine actually.
Oh, great! And then in terms of the players, like how involved do they get in terms of you educating them with it?
It depends really. Some are really, they're staring at the screen and say, talk me through what's going on here. Some, don't want to look at the needle. They don't want to look at the screen. They just say, get on with it. So it's very varied between what they want, how much they want to look at. It's the same with showing them the MRI scan. Some will be like, "Oh, just tell me what the problem is," versus, "I want you to show me. Go put it on the screen. Let's have a look." So it really depends. I feel like with the more seasoned pros, they want to know more. They will be more inquisitive. Okay, talk to me about this. Talk to me about that. Whereas the youngsters within the team setup are more like, "Oh, I don't want to see any of this. Please, just tell me what it is." So maybe it's something you grow into as a professional. I'm not sure, but that's the anecdotal evidence on that one.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And so, what in terms of the season ahead? What other things are going to be going on at the club?
Oof. I mean, from I can only really comment on the medical and performance side. I mean, we're excited. We've come out of our preseason camp in a really good way. Squad health is good. And the boys had a lot of hot weather fitness to go through, which they went through really well. So we're in a really good place. We've got a couple of games of preseason friendlies left, and 17th of August we start again. So from a player health and well-being point of view, we're in a good place, and we touch wood. We hope that can carry on into the new season, and we have another successful year in the Premier League.
Brilliant. Look, really appreciate you giving us a tour and
No
for sitting down and having a chat with me.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you.